My sister and I kept noticing the same thing. Every woman who visited our neighbor left looking completely dazed. We had questions, so we went over to introduce ourselves, and the second he opened the door, we knew he wasn't surprised to see us. Before we start, if you're a regular here and enjoy these stories, take a second to like and subscribe. It's the simplest way to support the channel, and I truly appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Let's begin. It was late and I was about to head upstairs when something caught my eye through the front window just across the street. His bedroom light flicked on, and he wasn't alone. I stopped mid-step, one hand still on the banister. A woman stood near the window, already halfway undressed. Her dress slipped off her shoulders like it had happened 100 times before. She leaned into him, hands on his chest, while he just stood there calm and still, like he had all the time in the world. "Claire," I called, my voice low but urgent. "You need to see this." She wandered in with a blanket wrapped around her, hair messy from the couch. "What?" I pointed without turning. "He's at it again." She sighed. "Ava, come on." "No, seriously, look." She stepped beside me, hesitant. But when she glanced out the window, her eyes widened. Through the glass, we could see everything. Her back was against the wall now, his hand braced beside her head. He leaned in, whispering something. She laughed, then went quiet as he slowly lifted her thigh, guiding her closer. Claire covered her mouth. "We shouldn't be watching this." "And yet," I said, grinning. We both stayed there, motionless, pressed close to the window like teenagers, spying on something we weren't supposed to see. He moved slowly like he'd done this 1,000 times, like her reactions didn't surprise him anymore. She clung to him, her head rolling back, her legs shaky before she even moved. When he turned her around, she held the window frame like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Claire shifted. "Is that the same girl from last week? Want me there?" "Because," I said, walking over, "you'll keep me from doing something too bold, or you'll pressure me into doing something stupid." "Possibly," I said, grinning, "but either way, it'll be fun." She rolled her eyes, but I could tell she was folding. When she stood, arms crossed tight, I tossed her a hoodie. A few minutes later, we were crossing the street. My heart thudded, not from nerves, just anticipation. Claire stayed a step behind me the whole way. I knocked once. The door creaked open almost immediately. He stood there barefoot, shirt halfway buttoned, hair still damp from a shower. And the way he looked at us, like he already knew exactly who we were, was wondering when we'd finally meet. Tone didn't change. People who watch that closely usually avoid eye contact the next day. Claire flinched. "I didn't. You saw us. It's a window," he said, "not a one-way mirror." I laughed, quiet and sharp. "Fair." He dropped onto the edge of the couch like it was nothing, arms resting on his knees. Claire still hadn't moved. "You can go anytime," he said gently, looking her way. No pressure. She didn't answer, just stayed where she was, eyes flicking between us. I leaned on the back of the couch facing him. "You get a lot of fake excuses at your door." He looked up at me and smiled, calm and sure. "I leave the window open for a reason." I didn't back away. I got closer. I leaned against him, one leg draped casually across his lap, fingers resting lightly on his shoulder. He didn't move, just let his hand settle on my thigh like he'd been expecting me. Claire's voice cut through the quiet. "You're actually doing this?" I looked over at her, still standing near the door. "You act like I dragged you here." "You kind of did." "Then go," I said simply. "Or stay and admit you're not just here for me." She shook her head. "He's a stranger, Ava number. He's the man who's had every woman in this neighborhood leaving his house like they forgot what year it was, including the one we watched last night." He raised an eyebrow just slightly. "I try to make sure they don't forget me." Claire flinched at that, but her eyes stayed locked on his. I stood up slowly, walked over, and took her hand. She froze. I felt her pulse jump under my fingers. "You don't have to do anything," I said quietly, "but don't lie to yourself either." Then I guided her forward step by step right in front of him. He looked up at her, calm, steady, unreadable, then leaned in and kissed her. Claire let out a shaky breath when his mouth touched hers, but more tentative, but growing bolder with each movement. When his head tipped back slightly, I knew we were making progress. Then he spoke, voice low and steady. Both of you." Up we stood together. He slid further into the couch, arms resting wide. I climbed onto the cushions, straddling him slowly, and shifted until I was exactly where I needed to be. The moment his lips met my skin, my grip tightened. His movements were deliberate, focused, unrushed, endlessly skilled. I tilted my head back, breathing through it. Claire lowered herself again, and I glanced down as she picked up where I'd left. Office. Her hands found their rhythm, growing more confident as I guided her gently. We moved together with shared purpose. His attention didn't falter. Every motion built on the last, sending waves through my legs, tightening everything in me. My balance wavered, but I didn't want him to stop. Not when he was this close to undoing. Then Claire inhaled sharply. He touched her, encouraging her up. She stood and let him guide her into his lap. His hand steadied her at the waist. I stepped back, brushing a hand along her spine as she settled above him. She closed her eyes and let gravity do the rest. She shifted slowly, adjusting with each motion. His hands supported her, one at her back, the other bracing her hips. Her breath turned uneven, her focus locked on him. She leaned in, gripping his shoulders for balance as her movements grew stronger. Then her body tensed, her head fell against him, her back arching just enough to show us everything we needed to know. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. He held her a moment longer, then stood with her in his arms and carried her to the cushions, lowering her with care. Going, focused, fierce, somehow tireless. His stamina didn't just impress, it overwhelmed. It felt like he could keep going forever, and part of me believed he might. At last, he let out a quiet breath against her neck. As he reached his limit, Claire lay completely still, chest heaving. I curled up beside them, brushing strands of hair from her forehead, my own body still buzzing. Then I leaned closer and whispered with a grin, "Still think it was a bad idea?" "Before you leave, tell me, if two sisters showed up at your door like that, what would you have done?" Be honest. Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And while you're here, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching.